You've been lonely before. I'd like to welcome good friend, Mr. Matt Eddy, right from the breadbasket of America in Iowa, to talk to us about best tips and practices with student teachers. And I'm sure Matt's been thinking about this, so I'm gonna let him just kind of open up and share some pearls of wisdom, and then I'm gonna let you guys ask the question you want. He is on his prep period. It did start at 2:20, so we came in 10 minutes late that we lost. Matt, I need you to remind me, when does the bell ring and we got to start teaching him up again?
Oh, I don't know. About that time. 2:10, 2:15, something like that.
So 3:10 for Eastern as we work through that. So just kind of as you would keep an eye on our clock and watch and know that timing out to make sure he can get back to his students by 3:10. Okay? So Matt, I'm going to let you go first to kind of share that wisdom that you were thinking about.
Uh-oh. Hello.
You still there?
Oh. Hello?
Hey, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Well, it's all you. You are the main distraction at this point.
Oh. Well, first of all, I appreciate Dr. Foster having me in. You guys are pretty lucky because I wish I would have had somebody like him when I was studying to teach ag. Because I think I would have been a lot better off, that's for sure. You know, I think one of the neatest things is going out and student teaching is really a lot of fun. I've had probably, I think I counted up the other day, there were 9 student teachers over the last maybe 5 or 6 years. For a while there, I was having a student teacher every semester. And then this year, I think I've taken kind of a sabbatical, and we'll see what happens next year. One of the biggest things about student teaching is, I think, you know, just you got to get in there and get your feet wet and be enthusiastic about trying. You know, be open to new things. There's a lot of times where, you know, as a teacher, I'm learning just as much as you are at this point, especially because some of the ideas you might bring with you are probably things that maybe either we haven't talked about at the high school level, or we should be talking about at the high school level. And so I know you guys will be well prepared to go out and be able to kind of make an impact at that point. We're kind of a straight urban program. I would say, I mean, we embrace our rurality here, but a high school is probably 2,200 kids at this point. And I probably have close to 200 students in my ag department. Just me at this point. Hopefully in the future that could change. We have do a lot of case teaching. I've been a case teacher since 2009. And so almost all my courses are either a case course or something I've designed to be similar to maybe the case methodology. We have a greenhouse. We have an aquaculture system. We have pretty much all the basic toys to play with. A couple of drones. We have our own Air Force. So if yeah, I'd rather answer your guys' questions because I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Got it. Okay, guys, see, we have him here, and we need to make sure our time. Honestly, I don't want you to feel constrained. Be open up on it. If you want to ask him about drones, you can. If you want to ask about case, you can. If you want to ask about the 9 student teachers he's had, you can. I just want to give a chance for you to interact with Mr. Eddy. So who wants to lead off? And I think the mic will work. I think if we're doing that, it'll be more fun for him if you go to the hot seat, so he can see you when you're asking the question. Okay? So someone going to jump up and get us going? Thanks, Mason.
Hi, so I'm Mason Tate, and I'll be student teaching at Lampeter Strasburg High School in Lancaster County here starting Monday. And so you said you've had about 9 or 10 student teachers so far. So what really makes some of those student teachers stand out to you, the flair they had that you said, yeah, that student teacher really did, you know, an A+ job?
Sure. Great question. You know, it kind of goes back to some intangible things. You know, a lot of it was an initiative, coming in and saying, hey, what can I do? And looking around and kind of taking some ownership with the program. One of the best student teachers I had right off the bat, the first thing and I don't know whether he did it on purpose or not, but as I was working with the class, he would mirror me in the classroom. And so I would be working maybe over on one side of the room, and he would be on the other side of the room circulating. If I were in the front talking, he would be in the back kind of helping kids or doing other stuff. And so it was kind of a real team teaching effect right away. And again, it wasn't anything. It was like the second day, you know, and I told him, hey, you know, you can have a week, just kind of sit and enjoy and, you know, take it all in and see what we're doing. And, but by about halfway through the first day, second day, I mean, he was bouncing around, kind of trying to help kids. I had another young lady that came in that she just did her observation with me, but that was the other thing, you know, she did was she took a real interest in the kids and what were they able to do and that sort of thing. And that was really kind of a big impact on me. You know, I think the other ones are just, you know, I haven't had any really bad student teachers. I mean, I've had some that were better than others, but I haven't had any that were bad by any means. And so I think the biggest thing, as long as you're trying and being enthusiastic about what you're doing, you're gonna do all right.
Thanks. Wonderful. Next one, let's go. Rock and roll. We gotta be quick and popping. We'll turn that seat right in front of Aaron to the on deck circle so someone can get there.
Hi, I'm Katie Andrews. I'll be student teaching at Big Spring High School in Cumberland County. And my question is, what are some of the best resources that you use to develop curriculum, whether that's free resources or resources that you pay for? What has been most successful for you and your students?
Yeah, softball right down the middle. All right. You know, I mean, again, Case I can't say enough about. If it wasn't really for Case, I probably wouldn't be teaching. I would have given it up a long time ago. Because at one point there, and it was right after I moved to Southeast Polk, I kind of got a chance to reinvent myself a little bit, reinvent what I did. And I got a couple of years into that, and I'm like, you know, I just can't. This isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable to be doing what I'm doing. And I was already on the lookout for something, and Case just happened to be what I was looking for when I didn't know what I was looking for. And again, I would highly recommend it from a standpoint of not only academics, but pedagogy to curriculum to strength of curriculum. I don't even understand why we create our own stuff, to be honest. It's almost a waste of time. And, you know, to be honest, I'm going to admit it. I'm not creatively gifted in the creation category. I'm creatively gifted in the stealing category. And so I like to beg, borrow, and steal anything I can use. And Case, again, let me put together something that's usable, sustainable, and it's good for my kids. They like doing it better. You know, the kids just got done taking a survey yesterday. I'll find out some data on.
I don't know what it did.
Yep, hiccup there. I think we came back.
Yep.
And anyway, so there, I think we're back. But the kids kind of rated whether they like it better or like it worse than what their traditional classes are. And so I'm interested to see what they put down. It was a statewide survey that we were doing for Dale. So anyway, I would highly recommend that. And I thank you for asking. Otherwise, I think you're left over with you beg, borrow, and steal the best stuff you can find. And unfortunately, sometimes what's good for one teacher doesn't work well for another. And you have to kind of be able to put your spin on things and be able to put your personality into it. And that, you know, there's a lot of things we could talk about there. But I think Case is what you want to go after. And that's the best stuff I've found in 17 years.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Me again. All right. So my next question is about technology and how you incorporate that into your classroom. We noticed that you're active on some of our national live Twitter chats. I think the drones is really neat and a cool part of technology that you've implemented, and that's creative. So that's a plus, right? So how did you come up with those ideas, and how do you implement maybe just more of the social media platforms?
Good question. I think a lot of it has to be your interest level. I mean, I was interested in using it anyway, so then it kind of naturally you find little niches and places where you can incorporate it and fit it and have kids incorporate it. Things will come across your nose. Hold on. The sensor said I was too sedentary. So anyway, the kids, will come out. You'll have opportunities to weave it in there. I think the biggest thing about technology is just being open to using it and open to learning more about it. That's part of why I like teaching, is I get to learn new stuff, and I get to play in arenas where I get to play with the newest technology. I mean, where else would I have two DJI 3 Pros at my disposal? And so I mean, there's always some great opportunity there.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah. While you're switching, go ahead. What's that?
Yeah. Olivia's switching. I was going to say what they're doing is they have access to MyCart, Texas A&M's IMS system, ICEV, and AgEd. Oh.
Yeah. Yes. Just make Arabinos and the other ampicillin. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
That happens. You're just a popular guy. So,
Well, yeah, I've got a student working on biotechnology as an independent study.
oh, that's cool. So, these student teachers, they have access to AgEdNet,
Yep.
ICEV, Texas A&M, and MyCart during their student teaching. They have a subscription. So they're they've had talks from everybody except MyCart, and they're kind of trying to figure out, where you're worth your money, what they like, what they're. Do you have experience of any of those other platforms?
A long time ago, probably like 07, something like that. I'd looked when I was at Indianola, probably in like 03. I dabbled with some horticulture stuff from I think it was MyCart or Cart at the time. At one point, we were thinking of doing Cart, and we had gathered up the money from Cargill actually, and that was right at the time that Case came along, and I was pushing on the Cart system, and because I thought that was something that we needed. Again, like I said, I was kind of looking for something before, and when the money finally actually came to fruition, I had been to Case that summer, and I'm like, this is what we need, and so that's why we've gone that direction in Iowa. Probably more so is I was more impressed with Case than anything else. But again, my experience in that stuff has been hiccup. There we go. Nope. And maybe back. Yep, they're back again. But my experience with all those other systems has been pretty limited, just because once I found Case in 09, it was full speed ahead.
Sweet. Olivia, your question.
All right. Hi, my name is Olivia Murphy-Sweet. I'll be a student teaching in Philadelphia on Monday. My question for you is,
Awesome.
thanks. As a student teacher, my biggest concern is classroom management for some of my students. So I was wondering, what are some good tips that you give to your student teachers to control the classroom when students do get out of hand in some situations?
It's a great question. My biggest pet peeve is that that's not something that student teachers work on before they get to me, because that's probably more important than content, to be honest. You can learn content as fast as the kids need you to learn content sometimes, but it's the classroom management that's a bigger deal. There's a lot of things. You're in a little different situation because of your age. You're closer in age to them, but as I learned as an RA at Iowa State University, is you can be friendly, but you don't have to be friends, but you can be friendly. I mean, when you work with kids, everybody says don't be their friend, and that's true, but you can be friendly. You can smile and have fun and joke with them and whatever. It's just, there's a There you go. I think there's a bigger thing in there of, you just have to kind of be there. Proximity helps a lot. Being around when you're doing group work and the class is sitting, being moving around, being right over their shoulders. Sometimes just even when I'm talking and a kid's doing something, I don't even have to stop doing what I'm doing. I just meander over his direction, and imagine that he stops doing what I didn't like. And so, proximity makes a lot of difference. And so, sometimes you call on there's times where I'll just say, "Hey," and they'll look up from doing something I didn't like, and I'll be like, "How you doing?" and just smile, and they're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Great." And then I go on with whatever I was doing, and I mean, it's not confrontational. It's not argumentative. It's just but I think the kids understand that, hey, I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, and they know that. They know exactly what they weren't supposed to be doing. But it's kind of that, hey, I know that you know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you're not doing something you're supposed to be doing. So it kind of, again, it lets you do some of those things to control the classroom without being yelling or screaming or doing all those other things or being punitive. Or my ag teacher told me one time, he said, if you're ever and not physically, but if you're in a fight with a kid in front of the class, you've lost. You've already lost. There's no winning there whatsoever. And he's right. He was right. And so that's kind of something to kind of think about. So again, and then maybe just say, even at that point, you just say, hey, why don't you talk to me after class? And then after class, in a more of a one-on-one type deal, you can say, hey, here's what I saw, here's what I'm thinking, that's not something we're going to do here, that type of thing, and just lay it out. And for more often than not, kids are pretty good about following that sort of stuff. Now, if something big and bad happens, then yeah, hopefully your cooperating teacher will be there to assist with something of that nature. But hopefully they're having you come student teach because it's a great program to come to, and they have great kids. And that was one thing I was always very aware of before I started having student teachers. I wanted to make sure that the classroom was truly mine and the kids were truly my kids, and that anything that happened, I was going to be able to deal with, no problems.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. I put a couple quarters in on this end, so I think I'll keep going.
Hi, my name is Sarah Royer, and I'm student teaching in Athens, which is in northern Pennsylvania. So I know that we are all fascinated that you've had so many student teachers. So I was curious if you have any common mistakes or problems that student teachers have, and if you have any advice for us for ways to avoid those.
Yeah, great questions. Great questions. I don't know that they've all made mistakes totally unique to them. I don't know there was a whole lot of commonality. Some of the bigger ones are just, I think, trying to figure out that relationship with kids and where their boundaries were. And I think you guys need to have that established before you go in there, but not make a big deal out of it. If you don't want kids to find your Facebook, then you better hide your Facebook. I mean, if you don't want kids to know your cell phone number, then don't give it to them. But when they ask, you're gonna have to figure out what your answer going to be, because I don't give it to kids is that's not a very friendly thing to say, right?
Right.
So again, you don't have to be friends with them, but you can be friendly. And so you need to know how to figure out that situation. That's probably the biggest mistake they all made, was they all had to struggle with that line of, okay, how much information do I give out? I mean, I am totally old and dated because I didn't have a cell phone when I started student teaching. And for the most part, I borrowed a kid's cell phone for 2 or 3 years. But now I think everybody and their dog has my cell phone number, and I still have never had a kid call and prank call me or call me early in the morning or anything like that. And so, I think there's if the kids like you and the kids respect you, you're not gonna have any problems with any of it, you know. So I don't think that's that big a deal. But you know, you might again think about what's your level of involvement with them, and what will that be outside of the classroom as well, especially even social media.
It's okay if I ask another question.
Yes.
And I know this is kind of a tough question, I guess, to answer, but in regards to time management, do you have any advice or anything that you saw a student teacher do that you thought was effective, like to plan or anything like that?
Well, most of my students would use the case curriculum because it's here. I'm like, hey, you need to use this. This is what we're doing. I don't agree with the philosophy of you guys making up your own stuff, but for a lot of reasons, and we don't have that much time. But there's a lot of.
Now hold on a second. You opened up obviously a ball
I
black.
think we're back there.
And so Matt, hold on a second. You can hear the giggling. You opened up a can of worms there. Do you believe that a teacher has to have the capacity to create a lesson plan?
No. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't. Probably because for the most part, you don't have the time to do that. Now, look, if you're a creative person and you got that juice, then gosh, bless you, go right ahead. I don't care. But I'm just telling you from my perspective, there is no way that I have time to create rigorous, crosswalked, national standard-based curriculum that has any idea of what it was doing from start to finish, and teach it, and run the FFA, and run an animal learning center, and run the lights switches, and run all the other stuff that you have to do, and run the lab out back there, and the greenhouse on the other side of it. There's just no time. And
Well,
we can
have this conversation later too, but see, I want to call bull crap on you. I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm calling bull crap on you. Because you're one of the few programs in the nation using drones in ag ed. And whether or not you actually wrote it down, you designed lesson components for your students to engage in that, because they don't exist commercially, because you're addressing the needs of your community and you're ahead of the commercial entities. And so how do you handle that?
Well, that's true to the extent of that none of my stuff that I've created from drones is usable. I couldn't give it to your class right now. It's all there.
But you knew,
and that's not repeatable. It's not repeatable, and it's not usable to give to somebody and say, hey, this is what you can do, and have it to meet all the national standards, all the other stuff that we can have it meet. That good curriculum. My wife is a principal, and we get in curriculum arguments all the time. Ag education has horrible curriculum. And if she was a curriculum director, and if I were a curriculum director, I'd take you to task on it, and you'd lose, because it's not sustainable over the long haul. Again, yeah, great. I did a bunch of stuff in my head, but when it comes to actually writing something down, and I've written some case curriculum, believe me, I'm not a curriculum writer. It's way too tedious for me. And by the way, if any of you want to earn some money, I could need somebody to do some curriculum writing for drones. And so I need somebody to do the dirty work of it. Yeah, I can come up with the ideas. Yeah, I can come up with what we're going to do and all that. But when it comes to creating worksheets and creating, whatever else the kids are going to do, I don't have time.
Thank you. Time management for Sarah Beth.
Yep.
So how do you tell them to time manage better? We went down, I'm afraid we went down a rabbit trail. She asked a question about what's the best practice for time management.
As far as classroom time management, most of the time, the last 5 minutes and the first 5 minutes, having those really down well makes for good classroom time management. And usually that's where you're going to have most of your problems as well. And so if you, and you always have to have a little bag of tricks of what can I do when they get done early, it's 5 minutes for the bell, we're not going to do something else. What can you have them do or work on that takes them all the way there? And those are two things. If you can control the first 5 and the last 5, that's going to make a lot of difference in your day.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay.
Hello, my name is Janae Herb, and I'll be student teaching at Midwest High School, which is in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Great.
My question for you, in our student teaching experience, aside from our duties in the classroom, what would be one recommendation you have for us to participate in alongside of our cooperating teachers, maybe in the community or elsewhere?
Advisory committees come to mind. I mean, that's a great one to do. I would really encourage you to do an activity outside of the ag ed department and make sure that, you know, go to a basketball game or wrestling meet or whatever the local thing is, you know, and I think those are some things that as you become a teacher and you become a part of a program, whether it's a big school or a small school, you try to make those things because kids see you in a different light, and it's always kind of a good opportunity for them to see you as a more of a real person. One of the things that there's a lot of things that kept me in teaching, I guess now, but I started coaching my third year, and I couldn't believe the difference that my kids had for me, both my high school kids and my junior high coachees, that, you know, it was such a different atmosphere and such a different way of interacting with kids that it was really neat. And you really have to experience that, I think, to understand why it's important. I still come down and help score the big wrestling meet that we have at our high school. And it's my one thing that I do to try to make sure that I get out and get in the general population and mix a little bit.
I just want to make sure they don't misinterpret that, Matt. Would you recommend to a first-year ag teacher that they coach?
Not unless you're Superman or woman.
But I totally respect, had a lot of teachers pick up the coaching after they kind of make sure they have their house in order first. So that's cool. Any other questions? Yeah. All right, Matt, I want you to talk about, you got any need for ag teachers in Iowa?
We got a lot of need. There's 4 positions open right now for the spring. And some of them may get filled. Some I'm worried about. And not that they're bad places. They're good places. One of my student teachers is at, and she's been there for 3 years and kind of had it back to where it was running. Former ag teacher is a great friend of mine's, the guidance counselor, assistant dean. It's a great small community in Iowa, and they love their ag program, and it's a great place. Unfortunately, she moved back closer to where she was from, and it was a great move for her, a little bit bigger school, that type of deal, but I'm worried they're not going to find somebody for the spring.
How would you recommend these guys, you know, because that's another, they have basically 3 anxieties. It's kind of funny. Anxiety number 1, can I manage my classroom? Are the 9th graders going to eat me alive? Anxiety number 2, do I know enough? Because I'm worried about the content. And then anxiety number 3 is, damn, I really want a job. Am I going to have a job when I graduate? And so let's talk a little bit about anxiety number 3. What would you tell them as far as really just talking about Iowa? How would you look at openings to see what's good or bad? What would you ask? What would you take into consideration? Talk to them a little bit about that. How did you look for a good job?
Well, you know, I think you have to realize, you know, are you looking for a job or are you looking for the job? And, you know, as a first-year teacher, you're probably not going to fall into the job. Now, if you do, great. But otherwise, it's probably going to be a job. And, yeah, you may be there a while. Maybe you'll be there forever. Who knows? But you may also be there a couple years and another opportunity presents itself and the winds blow you in a different direction. So I think as you go about looking for a job, you want to look for a place that's, you know, again, you want to look for a place that's supportive. You want to look for administrators that are good to work with. You want to look for ones that won't break a hip in your interview. So you want to do that. One of my interviews, I had the assistant principal rock back in his chair, fell over sideways and broke his hip. And then we had to wait 3 hours for the ambulance because the only ambulance in town was on a call. Yeah. And then as I was helping load him into the ambulance, he said, I hope this doesn't reflect poorly on our school. Oh, no, it's great. Things were awesome. Anyway, but you know, you want to look for a community that you want to look for someplace that wants to be supportive of your ag program, because you do need support. You know, you need people that are going to be able to help you do stuff. And, you know, sometimes they need that catalyst of an ag teacher. So I wouldn't be afraid of a program that hasn't been successful, because anything you do there will be wonderful. But you know, sometimes they just need that catalyst of an ag teacher to kind of start building things and getting the mojo rolling a little bit. You know, I think the other thing, when I look for jobs, I tried to interview every place I could, just because the more you do mock interviews, the better you get. And I went to a school in Nebraska because my then girlfriend, now wife, was living, her folks were in Omaha. And so, you know, I was like, whatever. And we went and saw them and went and looked at it, and man, there's no way I'd ever teach there, but it was good to go through the interview process and talk about what's your philosophy of ag ed and how would you do this, and, you know, all those other things. So there's a lot of great things there. At the end of the interview, the guy asked me, you're not going to really take this job, are you? And I said, well, no, but I do appreciate you having me out.
All right.
There were four houses in the school. There were 3 kids in the whole school building. It wasn't even a school. It was very small, very small.
Okay. If you talk in generalities, first, I have a favor to ask. Can you get me on the Iowa Ag Teacher listserv?
I can, if we have one. I'll try to. I'll get you onto one of them.
Do you get the any job that opens in Iowa? I don't for some reason don't have a good source of Iowa jobs when they open. So
there's a I'll tell you what, I'll get Scott to add you to that, his Monday morning monitor, and the last thing he usually has is open ag positions on it. But the state of Iowa's got a website that they post everything to. The name's escaping me right now, but it's and so but it's got that's where they post all of them. And a lot of it, the rest of it is word of mouth. You know? Yeah. There's a lot of us that know what's going to happen long before it does.
Just talking in generalities, at Iowa, first-year teacher, what would you expect for a starting salary?
You know, I'd probably expect close to 40, give or take a couple.
Do they do like in Wisconsin doing starting, what they call them, bonuses, signing bonuses? That's what I'm trying to get at. Do they do that in Iowa?
We're not doing starting bonuses. There might be a school or two that might try to do something. Iowa passed a deal where starting teachers start at X amount of dollars, regardless of what the school salary schedule says. And so that helps out. Depends on what your extended contract is. Could be anything from 0 to 60 days. Most people are in the averages of 20 to 30 right now. There's very few 60s anymore. So, and then FFA pay is a percentage, and very few people get a percentage. Some that do are getting good percentages. So it kind of goes. It just depends. It's so wide open here that there's really no good thing. I'd say 40, give or take a couple, either way would be pretty typical.
Okay. And do you know how many student teachers are graduating out of Iowa State this spring?
I don't know the number. I don't have one, so I don't have the list. But most of what I've always heard last year or two is we're not going to have enough.
Right.
And we're going to, I'll tell you what, in the next 4 years, there's at least 20 teachers that are going to retire. Right. And they're teachers that have been going forever. And when they leave, there's going to be either a lot of shuffling and a lot of merry-go-round, and there's going to be a lot of openings.
Sure. Well, I really appreciate your time, Matt. I know we're getting down to where you're going to get ready for your class. Are there any final questions before I let Matt off the hook? One thing I'll remind you, you know, he loves helping and answering at AgEd for me on Twitter. You can shoot questions his way. Matt, if you're, these guys will be, they get to tweet during student teaching, and their hashtag is PSU AgEd 16. You've kind of seen how we've operated. So You might
Yep.
interact on there. But I really appreciate your time, and I guess the next time I'll see you will be down the road, maybe national convention. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. And thanks for letting me come in. You guys had great questions. Very good.
Thank you.